Shamrock is Shanks' identical twin brother, and like Shanks, was born into the celestial dragon Figarland family. And even though he's a new character to the series, Shamrock is already set up to be one of the big players in the final saga, where his silhouette was present on the page showing some of the most important characters in One Piece's endgame. Shamrock is the son of another character on this page, Saint Figarland Garling, who is the newly appointed member of the Five Elders, and who at this point is all but confirmed to also be Shanks' father. Even though Shanks himself has been in the One Piece story since the start, his family has only been introduced in the last 3 years, with their first mention being in 2022's One Piece film Red. Both Garling and Shamrock are members of the God's Knights, the military order within the Celestial Dragons, and both of them are apparently seen as leaders of the group. Garling is called the Supreme Commander of the God's Knights, while Shamrock is referred to simply as the leader or captain of the group. Shamrock's first appearance in the story was during the Reverie arc, where Shamrock came to meet the Five Elders and wanted to talk to them about a certain pirate. This scene actually tells us more than a few things about Shamrock's character and his standing among the Celestial Dragons. One is that the Elders show him a lot of respect, where they say that they arranged this meeting in the middle of the Reverie, just because it was Shamrock. 2 is that Shamrock also seems to respect the Elders, by thanking them for this opportunity. 3 is that Shamrock is apparently not usually in the Holy Land, as one of the Elders says that he came to meet them from far away. 4 is that the Elders also say that because of Shamrock's standing, he shouldn't have anything to do with politics. I will now try to answer what all 4 of these points actually mean. The Elders showing Shamrock respect speaks volumes, as they generally have a superior attitude to basically everyone, and this includes their greatest allies, like Akainu, Kizaru, or even Garling himself. The respect the Elders show Shamrock could have something to do with the other point I brought up, where Shamrock apparently came to meet them from far away, and had something important to tell them about a certain pirate. This could suggest that Shamrock has some special role in the world government that goes well beyond him just being a God's Knight, and he could actually be some sort of spy for the Elders. It is possible that this is what the Elders were referring to when they said that Shamrock should have nothing to do with politics, and it could also explain why he's wearing a cloak, where he's someone who spends most of his time in the shadows. All of this also contributes to the final point, which is Shamrock himself showing respect to the Elders. This and a lot of other things already brought up indicate that Shamrock is very dedicated to the world government cause. It also aligns with what he later says in Elbaf, where Shamrock is adamant about bringing the giants under the control of the government. And naturally, this is another thing where Shamrock is the complete opposite of Shanks, who is a pirate emperor and one of the government's greatest enemies. We haven't yet seen Shanks and Shamrock interact, nor have we even seen them talk about each other, but it is safe to say that Shamrock very much does not like his brother, based on everything we know about him. As Shamrock is a devoted member of the world government and the Celestial Dragons, he also likely shares their views about former Celestial Dragons like Shanks. This is something that was made clear during Doflamingo's flashback, where the Celestial Dragons no longer consider you a member of their race if you were born a Celestial Dragon but decided to live among regular humans. Their disdain towards former Celestial Dragons is to such a degree that they refused to help Doflamingo's father after his life became threatened in the lower world, and the Celestial Dragons actually tried to kill Doflamingo when he himself later tried returning to the Holy Land. Figarland Garling also has an even harder stance on this matter, where he in his introductory scene executed a Celestial Dragon who had protected fishmen in the Holy Land. In Garling's own words, those who protect scum are even worse than the scum they protect. With all this baggage, Shamrock could well despise Shanks, where Shanks is a traitorous Celestial Dragon who's not only a criminal, but someone who's lived his entire life among scum. This could also be an alternative explanation for why Shamrock hides himself under a cloak while in the Holy Land, where Shanks could be considered public enemy number 1, and Shamrock himself could be on the receiving end of that hatred, because he looks exactly like his brother. This is a plot point One Piece has used before, where in the Big Mom Pirates, Big Mom hated her daughter Chiffon simply because she looked like her twin sister Lola, who had mutinied against her. By the way, there is an interesting detail where Shanks, being a former celestial dragon, may connect back to something in Chapter 1. The celestial dragons are referred to as saints, and the red-hair pirates in Chapter 1 word for word say that you're not dealing with saints here. There is a possibility that Shamrock looking like Shanks is something the government could also use to their advantage. If Shamrock is indeed their spy, it could be that he occasionally presents himself as his brother, and uses this to get close to Shanks' own allies in the world. This could, for example, be why Shamrock has decided to have the exact same style of facial hair as Shanks. It could also explain why the government has decided not to include Shanks' family name in his wanted poster, to hide the fact that he has a family among the celestial dragons. While it's possible that they removed the family name just to not be associated with Shanks, this is, for example, not what they did with Doflamingo, where despite him being a former celestial dragon, Doflamingo's family name is still included in his wanted poster. Admittedly, however, in his case, this could be something Doflamingo personally achieved because he is blackmailing the world government. Whether or not he uses his brother's appearance to his advantage, Shamrock being a spy or another kind of informant would explain why we've seen so little of him in the story. But there is a possibility that the meeting with the Five Elders was not the first time we heard about Shamrock. While this was indeed Shamrock's first canonical appearance, there is an argument that his existence in the story had been hinted at for years before this moment. At the end of 2017, Eiichiro Oda did an interview where he said that he would introduce a lurking legend of the One Piece world in 2018. To be more exact, Oda said that this character would be someone connected to Whitebeard, and that he in the future would be the greatest enemy ever to the Straw Hat Pirates. While it wasn't obvious at the time, this in retrospect all lines up with Shamrock's character. His scene meeting the Five Elders happened in 2018, and he's seemingly going to be a great enemy of the Straw Hats, as they in the current arc are on the same island, and Shamrock is set up to clash with Luffy in the very near future. Then, there is also the lurking legend's supposed connection with Whitebeard. All the way back in 2006, the One Piece manga released a chapter where Shanks had his meeting with Whitebeard. The very first thing Whitebeard said to Shanks in this meeting was that looking at Shanks' face made the scar he got from someone else ache. Considering what we know now, it could be that the person Whitebeard is talking about is actually Shamrock, as he very literally has the exact same face as Shanks. This would also connect with Oda's words describing the legendary character he was going to introduce in 2018, where Oda said that this was a character who had been lurking in the story for a while. If the first ever reference to Shamrock in the story was all the way back in 2006, lurking would certainly be an appropriate choice of words. This also brings us to a very interesting topic about Shamrock, which is his strength. If the analysis of this video is correct, and Oda called Shamrock the future greatest enemy ever to the Straw Hats, and he also scarred a younger and healthier Whitebeard, Shamrock is looking like an incredibly strong character. Whether or not these two statements are accurate, however, the biggest hint about Shamrock's strength is simply the fact that he is Shanks' biological twin who still has both of his arms. There is a lot of evidence that Shanks is a natural prodigy, and one of the most gifted characters in all of One Piece. This is also something said by Eiichiro Oda himself, where in a special 2024 One Piece Q&A, Oda revealed why Shanks is able to use Goldie Roger's short fighting techniques. It actually isn't because Roger taught these techniques to Shanks, but because Shanks naturally copied them. What Oda says is that this was something none of the other Roger pirates could do, which means that copying Roger's style was something even beyond sword masters like Silver's Rayleigh and Kosuke Oden. Oda also underlines that Shanks was able to do this only because of his talent. Shanks also has another moment in the story where he copies Roger, where he, just like his captain, splits the skies while clashing with Whitebeard. Oh, would you look at that? Their clash also split the like button of this video. Could you do me a favor and click it, just to see if it still works? As Shamrock is Shanks' biological twin, he likely has the exact same natural talent as his brother, which could mean that Shamrock is also up there as one of the most talented characters in all of One Piece. Then there is also the fact that Shamrock still has both of his arms. The story heavily suggests that the left arm Shanks lost in Chapter 1 was in fact his dominant arm. This is due to Shanks always using his sword and other items with his left hand, in scenes we see of him in the past when he still had both arms. Losing the limb you rely on in combat is a big deal in One Piece. This was noted by Red Leg's chef, Sanji's foster father, who believed that he could no longer be a pirate after he had lost the leg he had used in fighting. While Shanks managed to still become one of the 4 emperors, and defeat powerful enemies like Eustace Kid and Loki even after losing his arm, this was likely despite his maiming. This is noted by Dracule Mihawk, Shanks' former rival and the world's strongest swordsman, who says that he's no longer interested in dueling Shanks because he lost his arm. The fact that Shanks is an emperor and is still able to do things like copy Goldie Roger's techniques is once again likely a testament to his grit and overwhelming talent, and he more than likely would have been even more powerful with both of his arms. With Shamrock having this same talent and 2 arms, he could on paper have more raw potential than any other fighter in the One Piece story. For the record, just like Shanks before his maiming, Shamrock appears to be left-handed. Yet this is not necessarily due to them being twins. I didn't know this before making this video, but apparently, around 20% of identical twins have differing handedness, so Shanks and Shamrock being both left-handed could just be a coincidence. Whether or not Shamrock still having both of his arms means that he is as strong or even stronger than someone like Shanks remains to be seen, however. This is because while Shamrock may be someone overflowing with talent, the One Piece story also frequently notes the value of experience in becoming stronger. Zoro says that this is the reason why the Straw Hats get so strong so fast, because they've gone through so many perils on their journeys. And this same thing is later said by Shanks himself. The power of Haki is also noted to be something that grows exponentially stronger in the heat of battle, and in particular, the power of Conqueror's Haki is not something that you can even grow via training. Because Shamrock is seemingly a lurking figure who may not engage that often in combat, it could be that he's still weaker than Shanks, who himself says that he's been in countless battles throughout his life. One more thing to mention about Shamrock is that it is possible that Luffy is someone he's very interested in. While Shanks and Luffy's connection is not something that is public knowledge, Shamrock could be one of the few characters who has been able to connect the dots. He should know that Shanks is the man who stole the Nika Devil Fruit from the government, and that this fruit was later eaten by Luffy. He also could have heard from the Marines that the Red Hair Pirates have now helped rescue Luffy twice from them, once during Marineford and then a second time during Wano. It is also possible that he made the connection that Luffy is wearing Shanks' straw hat, where Shanks was already a notorious pirate with a bounty of over 1 billion berry before he gave the hat to Luffy. Even if these are the only things that Shamrock knows, it is enough to conclude that Luffy is someone important to Shanks, and this could in fact make Shamrock himself be very interested in Luffy if they do meet on Elbaf. Now that Shamrock is finally out of the shadows, he will likely be one of the major villains of One Piece's climax, where his build-up suggests that he will be someone who will appear in several arcs throughout the final saga. If you are interested, you can click here to watch my video where I break down what I talked about at the start of this video, where the original Japanese reveals that Shamrock could actually have always held a higher rank in the God's Knights than even Garling. As always, thanks a lot for watching this video to the end.